Yeah, it's all right. So
yeah, I see it says live on YouTube.
All right, cool. I'm just gonna tweet those out real quick and put them on Facebook too. If you want to hop in later.
Yeah, I see it says live on YouTube.
All right, cool. Oh, hold on, this one was glitching on me. It's the Matrix, dude. Last time I did that, and then it just kept looping the whole way through.
Yeah.
So here we go. Hold on. Let's give it a few seconds. You're gonna tell me, Eddie, what kind of pirateria are you running here?
I knew it was gonna be at amateur hour, dude.
Let me see.
My wife says I'm mean, dude, but I like to keep people on their toes, bro. Let's just say that. I knew it was gonna be at amateur hour, dude.
Hey, episode 7, amateur hour with Jesus Huerta.
There you go. There you go, dude. Oh, no, dude.
Let me see. Is it still going? Are you running it on your end or no?
I guess it has a delay. That's what it is.
Oh, there we go. So we got it fixed now. Now I got it.
Okay.
All right.
People are watching like, what are you guys doing?
What kind of?
Where did that guy get that sweater?
Where did that pirateria? Let's see. Hashtag amateur hour. Let's see. So I just put that one out on Twitter, and then I'm gonna put it on my Facebook right here. So Paul's telling me that I could do it with another one called OBS, and I could put intro screens and all that type of stuff. Yeah. So I might go that route. All right. So this is episode 7 with Jesus Huerta. We're going to talk about pretty much everything online learning. We're going to take this from 2 different angles. One of them is for people that are brand new teachers and some survival skills as they hop in, and maybe even some thriving skills. And then we're going to dedicate a little bit to our more advanced teachers, the people doing amazing work, and how we can help push them forward. So first, here we have Jesus Huerta, and I got the pleasure of going to one of his presentations a couple of years ago. First time I met him, and it was a really cool experience. I liked it. I remember sitting in there kind of wondering like, who is this guy? Let's check it out and see what, I thought I knew a little bit about 3D, but I didn't know as much as I thought I did. Actually, I knew almost nothing, it turned out. And Jesus kind of guided us through a bunch of tools. He gave us a lot of time to play. And then he really took it from an equity standpoint, meaning how do we integrate these in the class? And for me, those were the things that impressed me the most. And then kind of continuing to kind of keep in touch with Jesus over the last couple years, really feel like I've learned a lot. And so I'm hoping that in this conversation, you can learn as much as I have. So Jesus, no pressure, bro. Wow us with backflip. You want to introduce yourself, Ed?
I am Jesus Huerta. I'm a 5th grade teacher out here in Southern California. I'm in Imperial Valley. I live in El Centro, but I teach in Calexico, California, which is a border town. So you could say this is a border county or community, but the real border town would be Calexico, because like I can walk outside my class, get out of my school site, take a left, and in 10 minutes, or if I jog maybe less, I'm in Mexico. So I mean, just living here, that's why you mentioned equity. I'm a big believer in it. And with the kids, I wanted to add something just because it came to my mind right now. I never ever introduce technology. Not that it's not a big deal, but I don't make them feel like, oh, hey, I'm blessing you guys. You better appreciate it. You better take care of it. No, it's like, hey, this is the norm. You should have this. And guess what? They are never afraid to use that stuff. Robotics, 3D printing, and all that. So I think that's how it should be. I'm going into my 7th year teaching. I went to San Diego State. Locally right here, we have a campus, San Diego State, Imperial Valley. And then I have my master's in education through National University. Spoken at different conferences. I'm also the 2019 Leroy Finkel Fellow. Shout out to Eddie, because he was 2018. I feel like he laid down the groundwork for me to finally, win. And I'm I mean, I know I always talk about 3D printing, but if you look at my classroom, there's tons of technology, and it's for the students. I mean, I sneak it home sometimes, but it's for the kids.
So, Jesus, man, as you get into so let me say this: someone that comes into this podcast and they hear what you're talking about, they're gonna want to know, like, how do I get started? Because you do a lot of really cool stuff. So, like, say you have a new teacher coming in and they're into 3D printing, or they don't have the funds yet, or so let's make like a fictional character, and our fictional character, or our fictional like composite. Our fictional composite is a brand new teacher, maybe a second career person, said, they felt like that little tug in their heartstrings of, I want to teach. They hear this podcast and they say, I want my kids to do what that guy's talking about. Like, and let's say that this is his resource. Maybe he didn't hear about this in his teacher credentialing program, or maybe, he hasn't gone to a training or a PD. Like, where would we get somebody started with kind of implementing anything 3D in the class?
I mean, you can start 3D design right now that we're, in lockdown mode, just so they can get the design aspect down. In regards to getting 3D printers in the classroom, I would say, what is your goal? Are you going to use this print things to use in the classroom? Like, shout out to Ben Cogswell. He has a 3D printer, prints tons of resources for his students, like word dies, sight words that are like, 3D printed. So they're, you can hold them, they're physical. It's not just like a little card.
That's cool.
So, I mean, he's using that with Kinder, but they're not really running the machines. It's more like he's using it to create more and more materials for these kids. Myself, what I do is I give kids access, and they actually run the printers. They're the ones that set them, slice them, which is, I can go into that later. But my goal was for them to have access and use it all the time. So mathematically, this is how I break it down. If you're gonna just have it to print little things, have one, that's fine. But if you want your kids to use it and use it a lot or consistently, if you have 30 students and you're gonna print an item, for example, I'll grab, this thing right here. If I scale this down, I can make it bigger, smaller. This is just a default size. I can scale it and it'll show, okay, this will take an hour. So if I say, okay, it'll take an hour, I can do about 5 prints a day before I go home. Sorry about that. So I can, do 5 prints a day. So if that kid prints Monday, they're not going to print until the following, Monday or Tuesday again. So they have access to it once a week. Now, if I add 2 more printers, if I have 3 printers, now I have, give me 1 second.
All right, guys, while Jesus is out, I'm gonna go ahead and start my my comedy hour. Let's see.
Okay, sorry about that. Just my son had a quick question.
I had my joke ready, bro. All right. Keep
So if I have 3 printers, now I'm doing 15 prints a day. So that kid is printing Monday and Wednesday and Friday. But if I add 5, now I can get rid of that restriction and so on. I would say if someone's interested, figure out, okay, what is it I want to do? But then don't be afraid, because you're like, man, it's this foreign technology. It does amazing things. It's got to be expensive. There's actually a kit you can put together. And if anybody's interested in getting one, I can walk you through it. I can send you to the right video. It costs $180. And the thing that I'm showing came off one of those printers. And if if you guys want to see that, it's a skull. I like to print skulls because when I get a new printer or I'm done building one, that's how I run it through and make sure that it's printing properly. If it can handle printing the details of a skull, then there's no problem. But if you wanted to go bigger, there's one that's 380. And actually for Halloween, I print, and I don't have it. I left it in the classroom. I printed a life-size marshmallow, that DJ. I printed a helmet.
Yeah, that was.
And side story, cool thing with that was, I had a bunch of kids running up and, oh my God, marshmallow. I did it for them, But I had kids that weren't dressed up, and I asked them, how come you're not dressed up? And I mean, they were honest, because I was just being friendly, and they're like, hey, no, my family can't afford one.
Yeah.
So I told them, do you want to wear my helmet? And they would run around, and then other kids would come up, and if they didn't have a costume, I would let them. And eventually, I let kids that have their costumes, wear it too.
Yeah.
But you know what? I was like, why not? Now I wouldn't because of coronavirus, but
yeah. What's a good what's a good assignment to get started with when it comes to 3D modeling? Like, is it to have them just kind of jump in and try and start making something, or like give them a task, or like how would you go about, like, if I'm tomorrow I'm going to introduce, like, say, Tinkercad, like how do I get the kids into it?
Well, the way I introduced 3D printing in my classroom is the first day of school. They see it. This past school year, I did something, I thought it was cool. I don't know if you've ever seen it, Eddie. I don't know if I took it with me to one of the conferences you've been to. I have a giant fidget spinner. It's like this big,
Oh
you
yeah.
know. I can't spin it. I have to hold it and someone else has to spin it. So the first day of school, these kids just, they saw me walking around, like coming out in and out of the class. And I said, all right, to come in, you have to spin the fidget spinner. And they're like, what fidget spinner? And then I reached in and pulled it out and they were like, what? So when they came in, I had the printers running and I told them, find your seats, your names are there. Now they're used to what? Oh, little paper with their name on it, like a little name tent. But instead they had little name plates that I had designed. So for me, the first thing is just give them something 3D printed. And they were like, what is this? And they were just like this. That first day, nobody was afraid anymore. Like in 5 minutes, I had electricity in the classroom. They were like, what is going on? Who is the teacher? This is my classroom? They were like that. And that's what I wanted. But yeah, the first thing I would do is I sent them to Tinkercad, which it works on Chromebooks, it works on tablets. You don't have to install it. So it's web-based. You can take basic shapes and make something out of it. You can slice away. So if I have like a rectangle and I want to punch out a hole, I can just grab a cylinder, put it in there and punch out a hole. But right there, I show them how to make a keychain and they make one for somebody that they know, like a friend in the classroom. They can make them one. If they already have their nameplate, that's fine. You can make them one. And then I'll see who's brave enough and they'll come up and demonstrate to the class how to slice, which creates the code for the printer to know how to make the design. And then they go run the printer. The reason I let them, do that is I want the other kids to look and see, okay, he's letting us around these machines. And I talked to them about safety beforehand because the hot end does get up to 200 degrees. But I want them to see, hey, you're in this class. All this stuff is for you guys to use. And eventually I tell them, look, you guys have to run the machines because I don't have the time. I do have the time, but I want them to learn how to use it.
Yeah.
And so, by that Friday, somebody has already run the machine. And then other kids are like, when's it going to be my turn? And that's the funny part because I'll ask who wants to run the machine. And there's always that one kid that I've already looked at their cum. I've already heard from other teachers, oh, be careful with that one. She or he is, whatever. And what it is they just needed a different outlet. And they're usually the ones that jump up first. And so then so I always say it like this, but those kids hate on each other and they're like, hey, I want to do that too. And that's a good kind of, hating on each other. But yeah, that's how, and so by Friday, they're already 3D print and they ask, they're like, oh, and they always say something like, oh, so like by the end of the year, like at the end of the year, you're gonna let us use it or before Christmas break? I'm like, no, by Friday. What? Yeah. First, let's get to know each other. We're gonna start designing, and this past year, we started right away. We already had our devices in class, so we went at it, and yeah, that's how I would introduce. I would start with Tinkercad, but the main thing is, like, I have a bunch of stuff from the classroom. Like I showed that little skull, and the kids walk in and they're just looking around like, whoa, what is all this stuff? Yeah. And I talk to them about it, and then they have that item, and then they start to pick things, they start to design, and we just go from there.
Yeah, see, that's cool. So what I want you to picture is somebody coming in on the first day of school, and the regular, I don't know, whatever grade level you are, you're going through the syllabus, we're going through our routines and procedures. Basically, you're laying down the law. Or if you're walking into Jesus's class, you get a nice little 3D printed nameplate. You see machines running and whirring. And you already have, you're wondering what you're going to do, but you're not really wondering because you already know what you're going to do because he tells you within 10 minutes, hey, this is what the type of stuff we're doing on Friday. So I want you to think about just when you're thinking as you're going into teaching, what class would you want to be in, and then what kind of experience do you want to facilitate? So you've come a long way in terms of how much stuff you get. So like your first year, did you get 3D printers, Jesus?
No. It's funny, my first year, when I applied, my old principal, where I did my student teaching, was principal at another school site in another town. And she told me we're hiring. And I thought, cool, awesome. Well, she wanted me to teach math at her school, which was a junior high, because she liked how I taught math at the elementary school, because I did my student teaching in kinder and sixth grade. We tried it. It didn't work. I thought I was going to get let go. I was already like, I had like a little tear in my eye. I was like, man, I worked all this time, and now I'm going to, I messed up. I thought I messed up. And she's like, no, there's potential there. She goes, just, what, math is not your thing. She goes, we're going to send you down to 5th or 6th grade. She goes, where you belong. And it made me feel good. And it's funny because I went into 5th grade, and I was, I was trying to come up with, activities that were not just textbook. But I think it was like that first month, they told me, hey, there's this conference right here at IVC. It's a local college. They're like, do you want to go? It's based on like, new learning practices, teaching practices, some technology. So I was like, sure, like, I'll go. It was I think it was on a Saturday, or I had a sub that day. So I went, and I saw a familiar name. I didn't really know him. Atención Reyes, Chon, everybody calls him Chon. He had one on Arduinos. He had one 3D printing and robotics. I was like, you know what? I want to see what he's doing with these. So first I saw the Arduino one, and I was like, man, this is really cool. Little microprocessors. They're not expensive. They're even less expensive now. And then I saw the machine, and I was like, that's a 3D printer. All right. I had heard about him. I'd seen him, never seen one in person. And he had little things. And yeah, I made my own nameplate. End of the day, he gave it to me. That's kind of like where I got the idea. But I asked him, I go, look, I'm teaching 5th grade. I go, I can't have this in the classroom. And he said something that, I kid you not, I have never forgotten. He goes, why not? I go, what do you mean? He goes, why couldn't you? He goes, and I say this,
though.
Yeah, and he said something to me that I always tell other people, and I can't take credit for it. So I always give him his credit, because I hate when I see teachers do that sometimes, and I don't like that. But that's another story. They'll say something in their idea, and it's like, come on. But he goes, learn to use any of this, because I told him I'm in 3 of your sessions. He goes, learn to use them yourself. He goes, once you're comfortable, he goes, you're gonna have like teacher vision. And I was like, teacher vision? And he's like, you're gonna see the equipment in a different way. So you know what? I can leverage it to teach English. I can leverage it in science and math. He goes, this whole 3D printing, he goes, it's like unlimited what you can do with it. He goes, you should just look into them, and if you're interested, he goes, they're not that, they're expensive still. He goes, but I imagine the prices are gonna go down. I never forgot that, man. Never. I have VR, virtual reality, in my classroom, and yeah, the kids can use it as a brain break and play like a quick game of like Fruit Ninja, and they move around, so they get up and move. Some of them need to get up and move. But then I have Tilt Brush, and they can draw in virtual reality.
Hey, so what was your first? What year did you get your first 3D printer? How was that? Like
that was 6 years ago. My second year teaching, I got it through Donors Choose. And
explain Donors Choose.
So Donors Choose, it's donorschoose.org. You go in there, create an account, and you just basically you come up with an idea for something you want funded, and then you can post it like on Twitter, Facebook, email it out, and you can say, you know what, I need pillows for my classroom because I want to do flexible seating and I need $100. Cool. Or you can say, you know what, I want 5 CR10 printers, and that's over $2,000. But I have this idea for this huge project and I need this funded. The awesome thing is sometimes there's companies, like I had, my first printer was funded by Kia, the whole thing. Like I did it, and actually he told me also, he goes, go to Twitter, you'll find tons of stuff there. And I saw Donors Choose there first. And I went, put it in September, October, forgot about it. December, I get an email, hey, you're funded. I'm like, I'm funded for what? I'm like, what is this? And then I was like, oh, that printer. And I couldn't believe it. I spent like 3 months trying to figure out how to use it. I didn't know how to use it. I was like frustrated with it. But the awesome thing with Donors Choose, I mean, I've been funded like 6, 7 times. And I know some people that get funded for everything. And I mean, there's little tips and tricks on how to, get more people to notice your post, and, higher dollar amounts might be a little more difficult. So they might say, kind of maybe piecemeal it. It just depends. But then they do an event every March. I'm not sure if they did it this year because of everything that happened, but usually a company will come in and fund anything that's live. So if you have an idea, like a big one, I would say put it in like in February, and it'll be on there for like about 4 or 5 months. And if somebody jumps in and says, look, we're going to fund everything, then you can get it funded. Like I put in for a VR set, but the one that uses like a gaming PC. So I put in for the gaming PC, for the HTC Vive, talking like, $2,500, and then it got funded. It was one of the people that had developed Bitcoin came in and said, you know what, we're going to pay for everything. And it was like $20 million that they dropped. Like every project, there was like 3,000 projects that got funded. But I mean, you can go locally and say, hey, I have this thing on Donors Choose, and can you donate? There's different ways. And the awesome thing is that follows you. So if you leave a site, you take the equipment with you.
Hey, so
I would say
you've gotten a little bit of a progression. You came in, you didn't know about it. By the second year, you were in there making Donors Choose. Then you're getting VR, so you get a 3D printer, you get a VR, so you're moving along. And then, so what are you doing this year with it? Because now this year, you've graduated a little bit, right?
So, well, there's a few things going on with that. Like I have a student that he got a 3D printer at home, but we have an idea. We're gonna see if it pans out. It's still, it hasn't for sure happened, but we were gonna put a print farm, one-to-one printers in my classroom, for after school enrichment, but then also, my students can use during the day and and all that. But we're gonna see if it's possible to put them in kids' hands during quarantine.
Yeah.
And the awesome thing is my students last year, we had a program where we were given MacBooks, they could take them home. This is before Corona. We were already planning on deploying them like in February or March. And then everything happened. So everybody took their devices, including mine. The awesome thing is that's 5th grade. I'm going to follow them into 6th grade. So they have experience with 3D printing. They have a MacBook. The printers that we ordered I have 2 of them right here. I've built them, but I've built like 10 more of them. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to guide them. And now instead of just design, I print it and I show it to them. It's like, all right, you got it, slice it, print it. And then, next class, show what you made. Or if it's a 20-hour print in a couple of days, show us. Now I don't have to tell them, oh, you can't print that. It's 4 hours. It has to be 3 hours or 2 hours. Now it's like, you have a printer with you. You have 2 rolls of filament. Have at it.
Hey, Jesus, you got a good philosophy too. Because if I remember the story you told me where some of the kids, where you get when you were running like your ELD development, and then you were telling the kids, oh, when you come in here, you're printing. When you come in here, you're talking every day, or you're going to present, many times. You want to tell us a little bit about that? This is not just for new teachers. This is for everybody in general. It's a good philosophy to have.
So we do ELD. It's 45 minutes. Every other site I was at, we would do ELD, but they would just stay with me. But I had seen that before where, you split them, the highs, the lows, and if there's enough teachers, high, mid, and low. So my partner was like, hey, you know what? Last year I had the lows and we flip-flopped. Do you mind? So I'm asking, you're new, but, if you want to have the highs, could you have all that stuff? I go, no, let me take the low students. She goes, I was hoping you would say that. She goes, I want them to do what you're doing. And so she was already like, do that stuff with them.
Yeah.
So they, that first day, some of my students were like, oh, I don't want to go over there. And the ones that stayed are like, yes. But I could already hear them whispering like, oh, we're not going to do anything. So I had them line up, and then the new kids and the other kids, I mean, I didn't really know them as well. So I got to know them. Oh, say your name. Okay, blah, blah. So they're walking in, and one of them walks up to me and goes, oh, and this is from the other class. He goes, he tells me in Spanish, we're not gonna do anything cool, are we? I go, why? Well, and he goes like that. Like, he kind of shrugged his shoulders. I go, what do you mean? I wanted him to say it. He goes, well, es que somos bien bajo. We're very low. I go, and? He goes, what do you mean? I go, well, if you don't want to do cool stuff, I go, we can bust out textbooks. I go, I was planning on that. No, I want to. I go, I'm going to tell you right now. I go, ask any of my students. I go, we don't play in here. I go, it looks like we're playing because they're enjoying it. I go, well, I'm going to push you. I go, you're going to work hard. He's like, can you print me something? I go, no, you're going to print it. And he was like, so they came in and we did project-based learning exclusively. And one of them, if you don't mind me sharing the story, and this idea came from a low kid, ELD, So something that I think every teacher should do, whether you're first day in the classroom, 20 years, and you've never done this, when we say let the kids take ownership of their learning, like really let them. Sometimes I'll ask them a very broad question or say, what do you want to learn about? They might say something, you're like, you know what? Sure. I'm sure I can get them to write about that or speak about that and have them do like, a flip grid or something. So with everything that's happening now, we forgot that in January we had the Australia fires. Remember that? Yeah. Like Australia almost burned to the ground, like the whole country. And the kids were like, we want to know more about that. I'm like, okay. So I showed them a couple of videos, and one video, this lady's jumping into like a brush fire that wasn't too bad. I mean, you could tell she hurt her feet. But there was a koala trying to climb a tree, and he couldn't find a tree because of the smoke, and he was like hurt really bad. And she picked him up, and the kids were crying, and they're like, why is this happening? And they go, how can we stop this? I'm like, I don't know. They're like, can we learn more about this? I go, tell you what, why don't you guys do this? So I came up with an activity for them. I said, look, nothing magical. Just come up with an idea that would make sense, could be developed scientifically. I go, where we could combat the fires, either prevent, stop, or recover from them. And one of the kids never spoke a lick of English till maybe this presentation. So we're talking like a month or two after we started ELD. The other one, amazing artist, difficulty with math, difficulty with writing, difficulty with finishing work. But this one, he had one of the best ideas I've ever had. I can't even name another idea that I think tops this one. It's just so good. I was like, wow. And this is a kid that's low. They used not Tinker Toys. They used Connects. They look kind of like sticks, and then they have little gears. They built these two different looking robots. So I told them, all right, go ahead and present. And they had a drawing, which was their blueprint. I always have them draw blueprints and rough drafts, because I want them to think like architects and engineers. That's what an engineer does. You're doing that because you're doing an engineering project. What they had said was one robot would go through the area where the trees were all burned down. It's been cleared out. Bulldozed. Leveled and everything. It would go and say, okay, I'm gonna plant a tree here, and the ideal distance for this type of brush here, another tree here. So it would drill down the ideal scientific, distance, drop the seed, bury it with, maybe something more nutritious than the soil is there. And it would go around and do that and then move off to another area. And the other robot would come and stay there and monitor what's there. And if one of the seeds doesn't grow properly, dies, is a dud, and so on, it would send a signal to the other robot to come back, remove that seed, and then put another one. But the robot stay behind would be like a nurse.
That's probably happening in the future, bro.
I told these kids, wait, what? And the whole time I'm just like this, listening, and they look nervous because I haven't said anything because I just don't want to stop them. And something teachers have to do. You guys, let me tell you something. You don't need to be mean. I mean, I'm not saying the teachers are mean in general, but I told them straight out, I go, that's one of the best ideas I ever heard. And I wasn't lying.
Yeah.
And it's not getting their hopes up. Those two kids needed this project. They needed that praise. And everybody else had, like, we didn't even have anybody else present after them. We spent like 10 minutes on questions. Yeah. What about this? What about that? And they had suggestions and,
but think about the difference in the language development. Instead of, giving them the sentence frame or giving them the whatever and draw a picture for this vocabulary word, this is different. You're asking them to critically think, to solve a problem, and then come up with a solution and then share it, expand on it, and everybody, it's like really organic, man. That's so powerful. And it's not what the low kids get.
No, they don't. And the one that didn't really speak English too much, he did really well. And I told them afterwards, I go, you know what? Because I had told them, you're not going to present in Spanish. You guys need to learn like how to come up, do your best. And I told him, because he plays baseball and he boxes. So how do you get better? Practicar. I go, okay, well, how do you think you're going to get better at English?
Echándole ganas, practicando,
ponte las pilas. And after that, you know what? He was never afraid to go up there and talk. And he would start talking to him in English. So don't tell me that doesn't work. So it worked.
That's cool. So let's see. Let's pivot to so that's all. That first part was kind of dedicated to new teachers understanding what kind of things educators are doing in the great state of California, and some of the amazing stuff happening out there. But let's pivot now to some of the more advanced parts. And so what I mean by that is like if you're already teaching and you're like, hey, 3D modeling. That's cool. All those things coming along, but you've also done a little bit like getting into like more project-based stuff. Like I know like the prosthetics and those things. You want to share with us a little bit about how those types of projects go, or what's the entry point to that? So somebody like a teacher that's had a 3D printer, a teacher that wants to get into that type of work, they want their kids, kind of taking on like problems or issues in the community. Like where do they go, or what do they start with?
I mean, if you go to Thingiverse, Thingiverse.com, and you just type prosthetic, you'll find prosthetic like fingers, like if someone's missing a digit, like the pinky, a foot, leg. I mean, you can just find prosthetics there and just let the kids see it, print it, and assemble it. Because guess what? They've probably never even known someone that needs a prosthetic, probably never seen it. Now they're building it. And if done right, you could donate those. And I know there's one organization for sure, Enable. They will find people that need it. They'll send you the measurements, and then you print it, to those specs, and you ship it out to that person. And now this person that couldn't afford a prosthetic, they have one. That doesn't cost much. I'll be honest with you. If you have a 3D printer, if you already have it, you can 3D print a prosthetic for less than $50. If myself, say I lost, some of my digits and I needed one from scratch, like I didn't have anything, I could print it for less than $300 because the printer is less than $200. It does have nuts and bolts, some of them. Those are usually about $30. Also some elastics, some high tension wire, and then the roll of filament is $20. But one roll of filament, I could probably print 10 prosthetics.
Mm-hmm.
Hands. Where did I put you? Hold on, I have it here. Oh, there. So this is 3D printed.
Oh, that one's cool.
And the way it works is when you push forward, these wires are held by these screws right here, and then it activates and it snaps back because of the elastic. But if a teacher say they're ready to be print and they're dabbling with it, a progression system would be good. But I think the best thing would be to do activities like there's some activities online. They can make their own prosthetic out of cardboard and straws and pipe cleaners. Show them videos. There's this one for a dog called Derby. He's missing his front paws. Awesome video. I always start with that one. But then there's others. There's a kid that he received the Iron Man prosthetic from Iron Man himself.
Yeah.
Tony Stark showed up, the actor, Robert Downey Jr. But the main thing is just do it. If you're like, you know what, I just want them to see and build it, then just do that. And then have them write about it or present about what they thought, or, have them do some research depending on the grade level. I think teachers sometimes will be like, well, how do I tie it back to science or math? Look,
it's science in motion.
If a 10-year-old tells their parents, look, and they go home with one, like tell them, all right, you two built one, you take it home for a couple of days, show it to your parents, and then bring it back tomorrow or the next day, and then you take it so you can show what you did. This is the showcase piece. If a 10-year-old did this in 5th grade, you think they're going to be afraid of anything after that? No way.
Just developing it too. There's a lot of process going in there. They'll see it. They'll see the world in a different way because they put all those pieces together.
Well, and then I go back to the Australia project. If I had been like, here, read this. Now, write down the vocabulary, definitions, stamp it. I'm getting bored just talking about it. Yeah. But instead, I told them, all right, you guys asked about a serious problem that's happening right now. Let's come up with ideas that maybe can change that. And there was other great ideas. But the fact that they got up there and talked And they were using words that, you know what, this was not like their level of language. They were looking and reading and talking about it in a way that I was like, okay, they usually don't speak like this.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the kids did that, and they came out of their shows. You just can't be afraid to give them a chance to do that. And I know, you know what, we were okay, test scores and all that.
Not anymore.
Yeah, not anymore. So if we don't do state testing for a couple of years, then why can't we do this? But here's my question: why can't we do this anyways? You know what? I know for a fact that some kid is gonna go, you know what? I'm gonna change the world. And if it's because I showed them something in 5th grade, great. If it's a combination of, you know, teachers that did their best, awesome. But we can't expect them to rise if we don't push them up. If all I do is keep them baseline, then okay, they'll never reach that star that we talk about.
Yeah.
And I push my kids hard, my students hard, and they don't think it's hard because it's things that are interesting to them.
Yeah.
Like for history, I told them, you pick anybody in history, anybody. Because we had already gone through pretty much the timeline till now. And I was like, all right, we got time. I'm like, all right, you guys pick. I had a student pick Van Gogh, one of the best presentations I ever seen. I mean, it smoked some adult presentations, like, you know what, teachers had done presentations. And just the way she spoke about it.
Sign him up for IBQ.
Yeah, I got to sign him up for IBQ. I got some new speakers for ISTE. You know? But see, I gave her feedback, and then she did an end of the year presentation, and she did a series. She called it the end of the year part 1, 2, 3, and 4. And she did 4 recordings on Flipgrid because she was like, I want it to be like if I was doing a podcast, she said.
Yeah.
Oh, now I put it in her head.
Why not, right?
Podcast.
Why not?
Why not? Why not? Oh, by the way, we do podcasts in my classroom, but that's a different story.
That's cool, man. That's cool. That's cool. Hey, so Jesus, one of the things I personally, I think it's an equity issue. Because the stuff you're talking about preparing people, I think that we're not us, and maybe not many of us, but I think there's still a perspective of maybe that's just toys or those are just plain. But we know that future industry, there's a lot of so I'll give you an example. When I was talking about drones, and then I see that in construction sites they're already doing drones, and I'm like, why can't Latino kids moving up, why can't they be operating those drones in the future? You know, why can't I see drones being used like in topography and used in, and it's like, hey, you know, why can't Latino kids be doing that? You know, but if they're stuck in the like little ELD ghettos and you know, they're just naturally learning to speak English anyways, they're going to learn it at some point. But why, like, what are your thoughts on that? Tell us a little bit about like the things that you've seen that are coming, at least with a lot of the technologies that we've seen, and kind of what you think that means for, you know, the kids in our communities and access to even learning how to do that.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna see if you remember back when you were studying for your bachelor's, first teaching, your master's. I know your Dr. Eddie Gonzalez. I forgot your doctorate. What's something that they always tell us? They say, you know what? If we tell a student, you know, oh, you know, in 1st grade they heard they were a bad student, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, so they get to me in 5th, and they keep telling me, oh, that's a bad student, watch out with him. What's it called? Well, we always talk about it. Oh, we can't do that. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if I have these kids on the border and I have the expectations low, and I tell them by, you know, my actions, not my words, oh, I don't expect much, pobrecitos, you know, poor little kids, you guys are, you know, I hate to say it, like, oh, you little brown kids.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, you came into this classroom, you better get ready, because I am not going to slow down. And I don't slow down. I push hard. And the ones that need extra support, yeah, it's there. But they have to keep my speed. And no, I don't see why where they live should determine how well they will learn. It shouldn't. If anything, you know what? Let's give them more. Because at home, they're not going to have access to a 3D printer. Somewhere else, you know, oh, I'm interested in Mom, Dad, can you buy me one? Sure. How much?
Yeah.
You know, maybe they can buy a more expensive one, sure. But these kids can say, hey, in 7th, because I know in our at our high school, we have a robotics club. They have a raised printer, which is like 4 feet tall. It's a giant printer. It's awesome. I'm jealous of them. But I told them, hey, you should get that printer. So at least, I recommended it. When they get there, if, the robotics club, instead of having 15 kids that never use a 3D printer, they have some of my students. So now 10 out of 15 have 3D printers. Now that robotics club goes up to this level instead of starting down here.
Yeah.
Now he's like, you know what? Those are my people I'm going to count on for 3D printing. Man, they know how to design. Okay, I'm going to let them use, Sketchfab or something else. Let's see what they do with this. Oh man, they took to it like real quick because they're not afraid.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And you know what? Those kids telling me that they were low, I can guarantee you it's not the first time they heard they were low, the first time they heard they were bad students.
Yeah.
The thing is that if they can't communicate what they know, they're silent. So they're silent when they're in other classrooms and they're not given the opportunity to present, make a video, stop motion, green screen, slideshow, read out loud a paper that they wrote. If I say, nope, if I say, it's only this way, the thing is that, I can't take a bunch of squares and put them in a circle. It's not going to work. I have to have different shapes available. So each of these kids is a different shape. And if I have more shapes available, guess what? That means I can reach more students. If I cast a wider net, perfect. If my net is narrow, sure, I'll hit 3-4 students and everybody else, oh, well, sorry, you don't learn my way. So for me, equity isn't just money or equipment or even, internet access. Yes, it should be there. Yes, it should be there. And yes, we should have more money for, I'm not even talking about paying me more. Just give me more money to spend in my classroom.
What I think about, man, is a lot of those kids when they're talking Spanish and they're young still in the elementary level, or even if in their middle school and they only know Spanish, we look at them like they have something wrong with them. But no matter what happens, no matter what their experience is, no matter where they come from, no matter what color they are, when they get to work after they turn 18, the first question is going to be, do you speak Spanish? ¿Hablas español? So these kids are sitting there they're going to pick it up. They're sitting there with an asset, and we're kind of like knocking it down. So we're essentially saying, you're not going to learn 3D printing or any of this fun stuff until you learn English. But it's like, why can't they be doing both of them at the same time and enriching their experiences?
Even if I had a student that came in and, was from like Vietnam, I don't know anything about speaking, Vietnamese. But I got my phone. Let's do Google Translate and let's get started. And you're still going to print. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The language barrier, I can fix it with my phone, wherever my phone is right here. There's no excuses for me anymore.
Yeah.
And there shouldn't be any excuses for other teachers. I'm working with some students from San Diego State. They're studying to be teachers.
Hey, let me help you that part. Let me set the stage for that part, because that's the next thing I wanted to ask you. So because you're veering into it, but this is so Jesus has been having opportunity to work with students with at the university level, and I think this speaks to definitely like a more hands-on approach to how it is that we're teaching what teaching is. And so I think this is important, not just for people if they're working at a university, but I think if you're at a district or if you're in professional development and any of those areas where you're servicing teachers or future teachers, I think what he's about to touch on is a very different approach that makes sense, and I think bears fruit. So with that said, Jesus.
Thank you. That was nice. So I'm working with this group, and they were going to help me with my prosthetic hand project, kind of like finalize it and fine tune it. But the responses were so good, I just have them doing their own projects. And I want them to learn now things that I learned my first couple of years. I'm in my 7th year, but I started teaching when I was 34. So I started later, and in my mind, I had to get better right away. So that's the other reason I'm like, nope, gotta go. Nope, can't slow down. Nope, let's go. And this is what I told these students. Look, don't wait that 3rd year, like, oh, now I have tenure. Now I can take a risk. You'll never take that risk, I told them. Because I've seen teachers that have been teaching 15 years, and they're just, cookie cutter by, paint by numbers, kind of teacher, like, okay, more, that's your choice. That's how you teach. Hey, go for it. But don't complain when you're like, man, these kids they're bored in my class. Well, what are you doing? So what they're going to do is they're doing 4 activities that build towards that project-based learning activity. The first one, and I told them, like, you go into my classroom, it kind of looks like here, you see a bunch of like little knickknacks, and it shows who I am. The kids walk in and they go, oh, he likes comic books, he likes movies, you know, he has this and that. They already know who I am because they look around the class. It's not just, here's the alphabet on the wall, here's the numbers, here's how to annotate it. I don't have any of that stuff on my wall. And I told them I don't, because as a kid, it distracted me. Side note, as an adult, I was diagnosed with ADHD, so like my son. So that's probably why I would be like this. And then they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, what? I wasn't paying attention because I was like, there was too much going on. Instead, what I do is kids' blueprints, I put them up on the wall, and I have my engineering section. I have my art section. Once I put up a couple of drawings, every kid starts bringing drawings of their own. Hey, I drew something. And I have a giant wall covered with their art. So I told them, these students from San Diego State, I go, present what you're passionate about. And they're like, so like in education, I go, no, just what are you into? I go, that's what you want to, that's what you're going to bring into the classroom. And that's going to define who you are as a teacher also. I go, I'm lucky because right now, you know, technology is this huge boom in education, you know, in the last 7 years. I go, I came into teaching right when technology was like going up, and I've always been into technology. Before I finished being a teacher, I left education, like I was studying it, and I went into game design and learned about like game theory, mechanics, things like that. So I told them, you guys have to show me, what are you passionate about? Is it music? Why music? I go, that has to go towards your final project. So they're gonna talk about what they're passionate about. And then the next week, they're gonna do like a 3 or 4 slide pitch of just a gist of what their project is gonna be. Like mine would probably be, you know, these are prosthetics, this is how much they cost. The students are gonna learn about, you know, how it works and why they're so expensive. And then 4th slide would be, they're gonna do these activities that lead towards them building a prosthetic hand. And so I told them, you guys are gonna do that. Now, that prosthetic hand ties back to my passion of technology, because of 3D printers, because of design software and all that. So I told them, your passion and the pitch have to go together. Then they have to have the budget. And I told them, I'd never go up to my principal and go, oh, we should do this. How much is that gonna cost? I don't know. Well, how many do you need? I don't know. Next time I come up to her, she'll be like, I'm busy. No, she's nice. But I told them, your first year or your 5th year, your 10th year, you always want to have everything lined up and I'm ready, because you want to be professional. Don't go up there and be like, I don't know how many I need. You need to put in that work before you pitch the idea. I go, because the more information you have, the more answers you have to questions, the longer your principal or admin will be there listening. And then we're like, man, this makes sense. Man, this teacher knows what they're talking about. Okay, I have faith in this. I can fund this, or let's figure out how we can get this done. But if you're like, I don't know, they're going to say, okay, I don't know either. So that's their 3rd presentation. The last one is they have to present that project-based learning activity. For me, I just want to see what they're going to do. And I told them, you're going to learn how to, you know, plan, how to manage, how to research, how to figure out, okay, if I have a classroom size of 30, how many printers will I need? How many guitars will I need? How many keyboards? How many drumsticks? You know, what is it you're doing? Because I have one that he's super into music. He's awesome. So I'm imagining he's going to do something music-based. But along the way, I tell them a lot, like, you know what, be passionate, I told them, be passionate and bring it into your classroom. I go, because if you're teaching a lesson and you don't like it, the kids are going to be hip to it and be like, okay, this is not good. I don't like it. I already don't like it. My teacher don't like it because he's talking different now. He's like this. All right, turn to page 17. Yeah. Instead of like, all right, kids, check out your MacBooks. All right, go to Tinkercad. You guys are going to design blank. Like, we were doing history and they said, Mr. Huerta, what can we build for history? I said, okay, little side project. I go find a famous monument or landmark and design it from scratch. And I have them in my classroom. I have like 20 little things. I have the Leaning Tower of Pisa, it's even leaning. I have the Hollywood sign and different things. And these kids went, but they had to present on it and give me history on it. And then they showed their model. And then I have it there and the kids walk around and go, oh, who did this? And
That's
People
cool.
walk in and they're like, hey, is this the Hollywood? Yeah. And I tell them about the project, and teachers are like, I want to do that. And I tell them, if you don't want to use 3D printers, use Play-Doh, use Lego, use Connect, Lincoln Log, something, just something that they can build with, or even like a digital tool.
The printout or the final product's almost like a little testimony, right? And everybody gets to see it.
Well, they go put it, they remove it. If it has support material, which it's little pieces that break off so it'll print properly. And then they're like, oh, can I take it to my desk? Yeah, and they have it there, and they're looking at it, listening. Who wouldn't want to come to their class to know, like, I did this? Oh, yeah. Can I take it home and show my mom? Yeah. Then I get a text or an email. This is awesome. They can't stop talking about being in class. Not every kid's like that. I can't have a perfect score because there's no such thing as perfection, and that's okay. Yeah. But I'll say out of 33 kids, 30 are like engaged, and what more can I ask for? The other 3, it's hit or miss. But that goes back to the whole concept that these are complicated people. These are kids. It's not just a number. It's not just their ID number or a name and then sit in that desk and be quiet and I don't know who you are. Eventually, teaching like this, having these relationships, the kids open up, and then I'm more understanding. Not that I let them slide, but then I'm like, okay, that situation is rough. This assignment's late. I'll be a little more forgiving with it. And guess what? The kids will notice that and they don't say anything because they know that kid is having it rough and they see me being kind. Guess what they do? They're kind. And that's the number one thing. I need to show them not just knowledge, not just building, but also look at my teacher's well-tempered. He's calm. They always say, you're like the nicest teacher I ever had. I mean, I'm not trying to brag, but they'll say that. And they're like, you're so patient.
You're saying to model it to the kids, model it to the adults, model it to the teachers. So no matter what level you're at, you got to model it to whoever it is you're teaching. Because at the end, the teaching is, like I said, that's if you're just teaching it, that's this level. But whatever you're modeling it, if you're modeling it, whether you're university, middle, elementary,
well, and to me, it's not just there's 3 stages. Teaching. A lot of people are here. That's good. And then I model it. Like, I'm going to model that project for the San Diego State students. I'm going to present what I'm passionate about. I have to come up with something new I'm passionate about, or, come up with something on technology. And I need to come up with a new project, which is cool because that's going to help me just design something new. It challenges me. But so teaching, if I tell them, all right, but if I show them, perfect. Now, this is pretty good, even better, and I'm going to say it's way up here, experience.
Yeah.
Note taking for me, it's whatever. I know you're laughing because we had that conversation before, but why would I have you take notes on how to do the caulking in a bathroom? Instead, why don't I talk to you about it? Show you how to use the razor blade, the box cutter to cut away the old piece. I'll do a section and say, okay, you want to lay it out. And if it drips a little bit, use this tool to smooth it out. Okay, now you try it. You think he or she's going to go, let me check my notes on how to, no. Okay, he said to cut it. Am I cutting it right? That's good. Or be careful, you're cutting into the wall. Oh, okay, so this angle's better. Okay. Now use the caulking. Okay, you're squeezing it way too much. You got to move it faster. What notes do they need? They did it. Next time they're like, hey, I think I remember. And guess what? Guess where his or her notes will be if they get stuck? It's right here, look, on their phone. They'll go to YouTube and go, let me look up how to redo the caulking in the bathroom. All right, cool. Okay, now I know how to do it.
Yeah.
So teaching's great. Modeling's even better. And then blam, up here's experience. But you got to have all 3. And then I feel like you have the whole student is learning. Like it's a whole, when we say whole student, if I just talk to you, all right. Like when you went to my session, if I just, let me talk about 3D printing, and you're like, okay, so there's no printers in here. So, well, okay. But you could hear it, in the background. And I'm sure a couple of times you look back there like, what is he making?
Yeah.
So the teaching part happened. I talked to you guys. Then I showed you up there like, hey, this is what you can do. All right, now you guys try it. And there were a couple teachers from there that reached out, and eventually they got printers because they were like, you know what, I was so worried about getting started. But then you talked about the price range being, easy to enter. There's tools that a lot of people thought, oh, I can't because I got to download software. My district won't let me. No, this is all web-based. Oh, really? Oh, the material has to be expensive. No, it's like $20. It doesn't last long. Well, I had like little bookmarks. I'm like, you can print 500 of these. They're like, never mind, I'm sold. So whether it's students, future teachers or current teachers, I think that combination of teaching, modeling, and then you guys do it, the experience, that's the best way. And that's why I do project-based learning. Because I know some teachers in the past that, were like, they're just playing with stuff. Oh, that's what they do all day. No, you got 30 minutes. And if I see that they waste those 30 minutes, I take them outside and I go, all right, buddy, read for 5 minutes. Let me talk to this group. What was going on? And I tell them, if you guys were working for me, because one of the projects is a board game they have to make. I tell them, if you worked for me, this is your warning. Next time it's going to get more serious. Like you'd get fired, or I wouldn't fund your project anymore and see you later. And we have a conversation. They're like, is that how it really happens? I go, depends on what you're doing. I go, if you're saying I want to put this store in Target, that means I have to invest thousands of dollars. I'm not going to have my money wasted and my time. My time is my money, I told them. So right there, that hits them like, wait a minute, if I was really doing this, I could sell it. I like what I'm doing. Plus, now they're learning through me an easier way than the hard way. If they had a real, when they have that first job, they understand like, okay, wait, hopefully they remember my teacher said, I need to be on point. I need to take it serious. I need to do my best because I have a lot riding on this job now that I have. Yeah. And I told them, whether it's a whatever job, you could think it's a whatever job because you're sweeping somewhere like at a supermarket or you're working at Walmart or you know what, you're a real estate agent. Whatever you're doing, once you're an adult, I go, and they're paying you for it. It's no longer, well, I don't feel like waking up early today. Nope, you better hustle. And that project, they actually get interviewed by me. Like they have to come dressed up, be prepared.
That's cool.
1 year, a student was super excited and started crying because she forgot her materials in the mom's car. Mom works at the prison. Once she goes into prison, cell phone is off, can only be communicated with in an emergency. And I told him, your time is right now at 8:30. Oh, can we change it? I go, in the real world, I wouldn't. I go, and if you tried to change it, I would tell you, sure, let's cancel and I'll call you back. I go, you wouldn't hear back from me. Am I right, Eddie? Wouldn't that happen?
Yeah.
Some places they're vicious, or they're just like, sorry, I expect total professionalism. So she came in and I had to tell her, your game is not being funded. I don't see it because I don't see the other materials. I understand what you're saying, but I just can't see it. And I told her, let's reschedule for next week and then bring your materials. So afterwards, she starts crying. I go, no, you're still going to make your game. And she calms down. She goes, I thought you were going to, when you said no, I thought you meant I couldn't finish the project with my team. I thought I had let them down. I go, remember this. Because when a team is counting on you in the real world, I go, if you work on a project for some company, you need to do your part and you need to be on point. Look what happened here. I go, that could happen and it could cost you a promotion, cost you a job, could cost you your team their job. I go, you need to, when you guys do, I go, right now you're young. I go, it's okay. Learn from it. And I hugged her and she calmed down. But this is going to sound mean. I was very happy that she cried because I taught her something.
He was invested in it. Nobody's going to cry. Hey, no one's going to cry about a worksheet they forgot.
Oh, no. Unless, they get grounded for having a B instead of an A. But she learned now how to be in the moment, be calm. Like, I'm super excited about this. Okay, now I know I need to be like, let me take it down a level so I am in the moment and on point. Better that she learned it with me, cried a little bit, than her thesis. She's going for her master's or her doctorate, and I forgot to say no. Hey, I remember what happened in 5th grade. I'm never gonna forget to be ready and organized. And after that, she was like super on point with everything. And those are the situations you remember.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. Hey, we're gonna do you want to share a little bit about some of your things coming out soon, or no? You want to tease anything? If not, that's good.
For the fall?
Yeah, anything. If you want to tease any of your stuff coming out.
So I'm a big believer in the arts. when people say STEAM, it's science, technology, engineering, art needs to be in there, not STEM, and then math. But I've met other teachers that have had the same idea. There's another M, music. My students, there's a lot of kids that, they cross over daily, once, twice a week, it just depends. So they stay with aunts and uncles. Those aunts and uncles usually have kids, so they're in a crowded house. Or they live, 10 people to a house. So they don't have the room, they don't have the quietness to practice like a violin or anything like that. Do you mind if I share my screen?
Yeah, go for it. You can share it, right?
Yeah. So this is a website I made for our after school enrichment program, Sparks. So this is what, where our teachers, our tutors would go for their weekly curriculum. But I have music, I have art and more. I'm gonna add more to this because I want my students to use these. So Chrome Music Lab, awesome tool. But these
cool.
allow them to make music for free. Now this one, let me see if I can change my speaker. All right. Tell me if you can hear this right now. Can you hear it?
No.
Could you hear that?
No.
Okay, let me see if I can change my microphone. Hold on.
Oh, this is cool. So now see, that's one of the things I like about you, Jesus. You're a lifelong learner. Now you're getting into something different, Yeah, that's cool. We can't hear it, but I can see what's going on.
Let's see if.
Oh, it records too.
Yeah.
And it saves them and loads them. Yeah, that's chill. What's the name of the
Oh, I don't know if you can hear
share
it.
the website with me too?
Sure. Hold on. Let me see if I put my AirPods down. Hold on. All right. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear this?
Yeah.
So that tool is called Pulseboy. And I'll send you the link for the website. It has a bunch of other tools. That's what I'm going to be working on. So they can work on music. We did a little bit of podcasting. See, they don't know. I'm like that. They don't know that they're going to be in 6th grade with me. They keep asking. And I know a couple parents probably already know, but they haven't said anything because they work.
They don't know they're looping. The little kids don't know they're looping.
Yeah, they don't know they're looping. Hold on, let me put this.
So you got to come up with everything new.
Yeah, they don't know they're looping.
Know the greatest hits.
And I like to surprise them like that. Like, for example, when they do the board game project, eventually they'll go, man, I can't find a coin at my house. Can I print one? Can I look for one? And I go, yeah. And then everybody looks at me like, and they'll ask me, why didn't you say that? You didn't ask. Sorry, you got to ask, I like to surprise. I like to keep them on their toes,
Yeah, no, that's cool, man.
Hold on. For some reason, I can't hear you. Hold on.
How about
there,
now?
I can hear you now.
All right.
But I mean, there's that. If they get the printers at home, I don't know how, but I'm gonna get kids so they can each, and I'll give them a hypothetical situation, and all those prosthetics they can either keep it or send them to me, and I'll find a place to donate them. But the idea is for them to 3D print a prosthetic, scale it to the right size, assemble it correctly, test it, make sure it works, and then great, they did it. Or all right, do you want to donate it or keep it? I know what they're gonna say. Let's give it to somebody, because I want them to meet the person, via Skype or Zoom.
That'd be cool.
That they helped, because they build it. It's already like here. I can't even show you how high that will go if they meet and it's like a mystery call. And then when the person goes like this and they have the prosthetic that they built, those kids are going to cry. And I'm going to be happy that they're crying.
No, that's cool, man. Is there any other pieces you want to share, man? Because I know you got some things going on today, but you can stay on as long as you want, bro.
I'll stay on a few more minutes. Besides that, I mean, if we go back into the classroom, there's other things I want to do with them. I want to do some art with the Spheros. They come with rubber cases, and you use, just washable paint. And they program, or they can draw a shape, and the robot will go in that shape. And then you put giant pieces of paper, and they run it through the paint, and then they run it through an artwork. There's more things that, because they have MacBooks, I found other programs, or I forgot about some and started looking through my old programs that I would use before. Since they can have programs installed, I don't have to just rely on web-based tools. So there's one called Sculptus. It's like a ball of clay, but digital, and you shape and you carve it away. Yeah.
That's the one you showed at the session I went to. I tried it.
So that one is browser based. That's Sculpt GL. This one, you install it and it's even better.
Oh, okay.
That sculpted item can be taken out and 3D printed. And then the last one that I want them to use, which I'm going to need, I don't know how I'm going to do it. See, first I'm like, hey, let's get this stuff. And then I'm like, okay, where does it all go? Or how does it fit or what? But I want to have more VR in the classroom, because it just, whether they're drawing, designing, building, or, just playing a quick game of something, it just captures them, man. And it's I think that's the next big thing, VR. Yeah. In there's one called, I can't remember what it's called. Sculptor. It's called Sculptor. They sculpt in VR, and then that can be taken out and printed. So I took like a sphere and I started slicing pieces away, and then I started like shaping out, like I was making a skull.
Yeah.
And it has a really cool feature where it'll, like, say you have the skull this big, but you can teleport and it shrinks you down. So I was inside the eye socket and I was like shaping things away. And I showed it to the students and they were blown away. But this was right before we went into quarantine.
You have it at home, or what do you have?
I have it here. I use Oculus Quest. Way cheaper. Does just about everything that the other one does.
Hey, you want to do another video where we show this stuff? Because I got this one right here, dude. We can tag team and show off some of these things, like what we're talking about.
Which one is that one? The Rift?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to do that? Can because you could just share your screen. You could talk about yours. I could share my screen. I could talk about mine, and we could do that like in I don't know, just whenever you have free time coming up.
Because what I could do is connect my iPad and share it through Zoom.
Yeah.
And then I can cast from the VR headset to my iPad, and then you can see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. That'd be
cool. I'm gonna be out of town. I'm gonna leave at 12. So I'm gonna sign off in a couple minutes. And I'll be back Monday. But then we can definitely do something like, let's aim for like Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah, for sure. So it's gonna be part 2, episode 7.
Oh, maybe this should be something we do every week, Eddie. I'm liking this.
Let's do it. I know, man. I like it, dude. Well, I'm gonna throw this out to you, man. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I've been wanting to do talk about equity with people for a minute, and maybe we just throw out like an invite and see who shows up. You know what I mean? Because this is chill.
Why do you make it a podcast that's ongoing about equity and education?
Well, the one I'm doing right now, this one is the one I'm doing right now. It's going towards like new teachers and it's just mostly like on 21st century learning. But I don't know, man. I just feel like I've had good talks with you about things. We'll see. I'll send something out, and whoever wants to show up, and then we could talk about it. I mean, I feel like now would be a good time to, not now like me and you here, but I mean now, why not? Why not? Right? Why not?
Why not? Teacher vision.
Yeah.
Teacher vision. And I guess that's my advice to teachers. I know going into the fall, my advice to teachers would be if you're stressed out or you guys didn't really do anything distance learning wise because, you guys just maybe send home packets, but now there's that push. my number one piece of advice would be like, figure out how you're going to deliver your lessons. Is it Seesaw, Schoology, Canvas, or Google Classroom? For me, I love Google Classroom. It's just the easiest way. Once you're comfortable, then I would say start delving into other things like, you know, oh, I heard about Kahoot and GymKit, quizzes, you know, Khan Academy.
Pónganse las pilas.
Yeah, then
Get
start
the
doing,
batteries on.
and then when you're like really comfortable, start looking at like, okay, I want to teach music, or how can I combine music, or okay, I want to do 3D design software. Now, if you jump in there, you're like, man, I'm totally lost. Join Twitter, go on there, and just look up, you know, 3D print, and a bunch of stuff pop up, or 3D print EDU, or reach out to people, like look on there and see who can I follow, and okay, this person does music, let me ask them, or reach out to me, and I can help you as much as I can. So
yeah. All right, man. Well, thanks, Jesus. Have a safe drive. Stay safe out there, and we'll be seeing you this next week, homie.
Oh, it's gonna be a VR party, dude.
Later, man.
I'll talk to you later, brother. Bye.
Bye.